Hello, welcome back to Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Yuras. I'm here with Rain. How are you?
Kind of sick, but pretty excited to talk about this case. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm not sick today, so
Lucky.
I feel lucky right now. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the mysterious disappearance of a woman named Jamie Farley. You did your research a little bit into this case, right? I guess we're gonna talk about a 22-year-old woman who went missing from North Carolina back in 2008, and her disappearance is kind of very suspicious. I'm not gonna lie, and we have a few persons of interest, at least one very big person of interest in the case. Do you know who I'm talking about?
The guy named Ricky.
Yeah, basically Ricky Sr. Okay, so let's kind of jump into it, right? So in the early hours of April 8th, which was a Tuesday, early morning hours in the Tuesday, 2008, Jamie Farley, a 22-year-old woman from Gastonia, which is a city in North Carolina, United States, she told a friend over the phone that she was going to the hospital for the third time in the last 24 hours due to a presumed stomach virus. When asked who was taking her to the hospital in the early morning hours, it was like 1:30 a.m. in the morning, Jamie Farley said it was another friend, and she apparently declined to further identify the person who was gonna allegedly take her to the hospital. And now this person is obviously person of interest number one. This is the person who most likely had caused Jamie's disappearance.
Yeah, right off the bat, a friend who's gonna take her to the hospital around 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. This must be a very close friend.
Or a neighbor, someone living in the same apartment complex.
Oh, could be, yeah.
She had not been seen ever since. Her cell phone was recovered a few days later, but provided no useful information as to her whereabouts.
Recovered where exactly?
1.6 kilometers away at an intersection. More on that later. Investigators initially believed she had met with foul play and began focusing on Ricky Simmons Sr, her fiancé's father, who lived in the same apartment complex, and he was the main person of interest. He had driven Jamie Farley to the hospital on one of her previous visits that day, because she had visited the hospital twice leading up to her disappearance. He also had a criminal record that included prison time for manslaughter after he had strangled a girlfriend back in the 80s. However, the investigation ended 2 months later when this man, Simmons Sr, was found dead. Apparently of a heat stroke. He was found dead inside of the trunk of his former girlfriend's car. He apparently put himself in that trunk, and I think he was intoxicated, and he may have panicked, forgotten that there is like a latch that will let you out of the trunk of the car. He completely forgot about that latch, and he just passed away due to a heat stroke. Why was he in the trunk? Well, police believe that he was about to ambush the ex-girlfriend. I mean, it's bizarre. What do you think? What do you think about Simmons Sr?
Definitely not your normal individual.
Yeah, something's off with that guy.
Definitely.
So Jamie is 4'9". She weighs around 90 pounds. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, so she was on the smaller side. And a petite side.
Making it probably easier for the culprit to drag her?
Yes, we're looking at the images right now of the apartment complex where Jamie Farley was last known to be. Well, this is where she was living in Gastonia. What do you make of this apartment complex.
It seems a little isolated, a little bit, not super isolated, a little bit out of.
It's not the city center for sure.
Yeah.
It's more of a suburban neighborhood.
Near a very foresty area.
Yeah, near a very foresty area. There's also a lake, if you can see. Across the street, there's this pretty big lake that was also searched. And apparently Jamie is not in that lake.
Was not in that lake?
Yeah, she's not.
Immediately I was assuming that her body probably was in that lake.
No, apparently it was searched. So Jamie was a native of Gaston County, and she had struggled with anxiety and a bipolar disorder throughout her whole life. By the late 2000s, though, she had responded well to prescription medication for those conditions. And she was also attending Gaston College on a part-time basis. According to her family, she was planning on a career as a substance abuse counselor. In 2006, she had began dating Ricky Simmons Sr, so the son of the main suspect. Her family said that she was very much in love with him, and eventually the two became engaged. However, Junior had a criminal history just like his father, and after several earlier arrests for petty crimes in early 2007, he was sentenced to 15 months in state prison for theft. Fraley continued to visit and interact with him while he was incarcerated. Alright, we're back from a sneeze break, and we're continuing. On April 7th, which was a Monday, so this was the day when, Jamie Fraley got sick. So she apparently had the stomach virus. We don't even know if it was a stomach virus. It's allegedly a stomach virus, but I don't know what kind of a stomach virus would you have to kind of experience the stuff that Jamie was experiencing. But let's just say it was a stomach virus.
I'm assuming it's like a regular stomach bug or food poisoning or something.
I don't know. I never had something, or at least I haven't had it recently. So, God forbid.
I mean, it's definitely something that's out of the ordinary, and it's like probably severe.
It was severe enough that she twice sought treatment at a local hospital on the same day. And she had no driver's license, so she relied on social service worker and friends and family to take her to the hospital. So after returning from the first trip, we don't know exactly who took her to the hospital on the first time, but after returning from the first trip, one of Farley's friends visited her and picked up her dog, which Fraley had been sitting for her. So basically, Jamie Fraley was babysitting a dog from a friend who also lived in that apartment complex, and this friend was actually dating Simmons Sr. Did you catch everything here?
Yeah, so wait.
Simmons Sr. has a girlfriend who lives with him in the apartment complex.
Yeah, I understand that part.
And she has a dog.
Yeah, I'm just assuming immediately that this girlfriend is around the same age as Jamie.
I don't know her age. But things between Simmons Sr. and the girlfriend turned sour because Simmons Sr. died in that girlfriend's trunk. It's crazy, right? So we do not know who drove her to the first on the first trip. The Simmons Sr., her incarcerated fiance's father, who lived in the same apartment complex, did maintenance work there. I think it was his job, and he was the person who drove her on the second trip to the hospital.
Okay, immediately. You mentioned that he was doing the maintenance job for the building.
Yeah.
I'm already assuming, and I'm just assuming, that he had a key for every room, perhaps?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Potentially, right?
Yeah, he probably had copies or had access to copies of those keys, especially in that small apartment building. I think he had keys to every place.
Makes it creepier.
It's really bad now when you think about his previous criminal records.
Yeah, I wonder how he got that job.
I don't know, man. But it had been, I think, 16 years after he was already released from prison, because he was released from prison due to good behavior. So time had passed when he had acquired this job. So Jamie Farley decided that around 12 a.m. in midnight that she had something more serious and that she needed to go back to the hospital. And therefore she called her mother to let her know that, yo, I'm gonna go back to the hospital. She called her mother at 12 a.m.
Quick question. Where was her mother? Was she living within the same city, same area, or a little farther away?
I think she was somewhere close.
Okay.
Now at 1:30 a.m., an hour and 30 minutes later, she called another friend, and during the call she mentioned that she was going back to the hospital. The call was cut short when Jamie apparently saw her ride, whom she referred to as he arrived. So, isn't it a strange time to call a friend? At 1:30 a.m.?
At midnight?
Yeah.
No, these are young people. We're awake around that time.
I guess you're right.
Presumably, she might be feeling really off that she was still awake.
Do you find it strange that she spent another 1.5 hours waiting around before going to the hospital after calling her mother? Because let's remember that she called her mother at midnight and she only called another friend at 1:30 a.m. So she didn't go straight to the hospital when she told her mother that she was gonna go to the hospital.
This might be out of her reach though, because she didn't have a car and she didn't have the
She was
means to
relying
drive.
on other
Yeah,
people.
maybe she was waiting for that ride, whoever he is.
Well, apparently she never checked into the hospital for the third time. And since that phone call with a friend, there has been no evidence of her presence anywhere. And we have to just wonder what happened to Jamie. And we have to wonder, was she even going to the hospital? And did the person who picked her up was the reason for her disappearance?
I mean, I would assume so, yeah.
So after Farley missed an appointment, which was an important appointment the next day, I believe it was like some sort of social workers or something like that, her family went to her apartment and they wanted to check if she was all right, because I think someone called the parents and said that Jamie didn't show up. So they did not find her in the apartment. The door was locked, however. Inside of the apartment, they found her wallet, purse, keys, and identification, but her cell phone was the only thing that was missing. There were no signs of struggle, so they concluded that she had willingly left her apartment. Unable to locate her, they called police and reported her missing.
I'm confused though. You mentioned that they saw her purse inside the house?
Yes.
That's pretty confusing for me. And also the ID cards. Wouldn't you need those when you're going to the hospital?
Exactly, that's my next question for you. That's bizarre.
That's really bizarre. It's either she was in a rush or what, actually.
I was thinking that, okay, hear me out here. So there is no, okay, so they retrieved her phone later on. So I think they could check her cell phone records, right? And it has never been reported whom she called for the ride to the hospital. Because let's think about it. If we clearly think that the main person of interest is the person who allegedly was going to take her to the hospital at 1:30 a.m. But she never called this person via her phone because it was never reported.
And maybe she didn't need to. Maybe it was a neighbor.
Because it was a neighbor.
Yeah.
And that's why she only had her phone. Because she was on the phone with a friend at 1:30 a.m. and she was maybe standing around in the hallway or something like that, waiting for that person to give her a ride. She left all of her stuff in her apartment because she had intentions to go back into the apartment and pick everything up, but that person abducted her and did not allow her to go back into the apartment. That is my opinion. And on top of that, her keys, I believe her keys to the apartment were found inside of the apartment, and the apartment itself was locked. That the only way I can explain this is that Ricky Simmons Sr., who had most likely copies of every key in the apartment complex, was the only person who was able to lock the apartment while the keys were still inside of the apartment. Because how can you lock the apartment and then
Push the button inside and lock it
push the button inside and lock it
from the outside.
from the outside?
I'm assuming this is
and lock it? I don't get it. Sorry.
I'm assuming this is some sort of American doorknob system wherein you just have to press a button from the inside and you could just completely lock the door.
Yeah, but
It's kind of different from what we have here.
no, but how would that make any sense though? Because unless
So from the inside, there's this knob,
Yeah.
and in the middle of the knob, there's like a little button that you could push, and then slam the
yeah,
door
but
and
the
it'll lock.
but the keys were left inside of the apartment.
Yes, so you could still lock the door even with your keys inside your apartment.
But then how would you ever get back in?
You won't. You're locked out.
Okay, yeah.
Does it make sense? Not necessarily.
I mean, not to me.
Okay, in my head, at least in my opinion, I'm assuming right now that she probably never even got to be in the car.
I think she never got to go back into the apartment. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think they have those, like, whatever you described. This isn't. I don't know who would ever need that.
No, that's because you mentioned that the keys were inside the apartment. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming since she wasn't in the apartment, she
Yeah.
managed to get out and lock the apartment.
No, what I'm thinking is that she left the keys in the apartment and she went next door or next few doors. She left the apartment unlocked. She wanted to get a ride from someone, most likely Senior. And then Senior, he's doing maintenance there, so he has access to copies of the keys. So he abducts Jamie and then locks the door of her apartment while the keys were still inside of her apartment. So she leaves the apartment without locking the door behind her. And then Senior later locks it for some weird reason.
But that's a really weird reason to lock a door.
Yeah. There seemingly is no reason for Senior to lock the door. After he potentially abducts Jamie, there really is no reason that I can think of right now for him to go back there and lock the door. I don't know why he would do that. Maybe he was just, or maybe he's not fully involved. Maybe he's not. Yeah. Anyways, I think we should proceed with some more information here. So, Gaston County Police launched a major investigation. They put all investigators on the case. 3 of them were devoted full time, and they requested assistance from the FBI. So it was a huge case. 2 days after her disappearance, utility workers discovered her phone at an intersection roughly a mile from her apartment. And I have to ask, how did her phone end up at that intersection? And I'm thinking it could have possibly been thrown out of a moving vehicle because the phone was scuffed, and apparently Jamie always had her phone with her. So you have to wonder, did Jamie wander at that intersection by herself and just somehow lost the phone, or was the phone already somehow in the car? With Jamie as well, and maybe Jamie's being driven somewhere. But why would you throw out a mobile phone? And I was thinking maybe it was a situation where Jamie is already in a car with an abductor and she realizes that they're going into the wrong direction, or she was somehow alerted by this. She threatens, "Turn around or I'll call the cops." Now, the abductor takes the phone and throws it out the window.
Yeah, that's a very likely scenario.
Right, you could see that happening, right? By the time the phone was turned over to the police, too many people had handled it, and it was unusable for evidence, and no fingerprints were able to be gathered off of the phone.
Oh, great job.
Searching through its call records, police found that several calls had been made at 4:30 a.m. However, they turned out to be from the list of calls that Jamie had dialed earlier and were not connected to the disappearance. However, a call had been made to the phone at 5 a.m., but it could not be determined who it was from. So someone called Jamie's phone at 5 a.m. and it somehow wasn't, well, they weren't able to figure out who was calling, but someone, who do you think was calling Jamie at 5 a.m.? Was it just a friend, or is this call somehow also connected in some way to her disappearance?
I have no idea. It could be anything. Anyone, actually. It could be a friend who she told about the hospital trip with, her family members, her fiancé. I don't know. It could be a bunch of people, or like at least one person who knew that she was heading out and wanted to check up on her, maybe.
It could have been anyone, really. The
Could
possibilities
even be a
are, possibilities are endless.
I think this part we'll never know.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Senior. So Senior was Farley's fiancé's father. And Junior, actually, at the time, was still incarcerated during the time of Jamie's disappearance. But police immediately started focusing on Senior because he had a criminal record, including 6 years in prison for manslaughter in 86. I believe he served time from 86 to 92 because he strangled his girlfriend to death. I do not have any more information about that case, but it was ruled a manslaughter when he strangled his girlfriend to death in 86, and he only served 6 years in prison for murdering, essentially, as I understand, or like manslaughtering his girlfriend, which is kind of a short sentence.
Definitely a short sentence. Also, just wanted to mention that I was kind of watching this YouTube video earlier about Jamie as well. It's from a YouTube channel called Dustin Daily, and he claims that Ricky...
Which one?
Simmons Sr.
Senior or Junior?
I believe Senior.
Okay, Senior.
Also killed his cousin. Unfortunately, I could not remember the cousin's name, but it was a known thing within the area.
So Senior, but not Junior, right?
If I remember correctly. Might be wrong, though.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he actually mentioned if it's a junior or senior.
I think it's a pretty big deal, you know? Which
could be one person or the other. Let me check up on that.
So Senior also lived in the same complex as Jamie. He only lived 2 doors away, and he did maintenance work there. He had driven her to the hospital on the second time on the day that she vanished, making him one of the last people to talk to her and see her that day. And he was reportedly obsessed with Jamie Farley. And he also refused to take a lie detector test.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry. Quick commercial break. Yep, I checked on it. Senior. And in 1986, he killed a girl named Donna Miller.
Yeah, that's his then girlfriend.
Oh. So yep, Dustin Daly is related to her.
Dustin Daly?
Yeah, the YouTuber.
She's... okay. I see. Now I have a question, though. Well, it's not a question. It's really bad signs because apparently Senior was obsessed with Jamie Farley. It's a bad sign.
That's a terrible sign.
Yeah, he was obsessed. 2 months to the day after Farley disappeared, however, the investigation into Senior ended with his death. Because on June 7th, the latest girlfriend now ex-girlfriend, Kim Springer. This is the same woman whose dog, Jamie Farley, was babysitting for her. A former girlfriend who had recently obtained a protective order against Senior noticed a foul odor in her car. As it persisted to the next day, she opened the trunk, and inside she found Senior's body, decomposing. Police investigating found that he had a set of her car keys, and a week earlier, Kim's purse had been stolen from the car. The cause of death was ruled to be accidental heat stroke during the previous days. High temperatures in the area had exceeded 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wait, 1 second. How long was he in the trunk?
Apparently a couple of days.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he was in the trunk for a couple of days.
Intentionally?
No, I think he passed away on day one.
Oh, okay.
He was just drunk or high on drugs and he was gone. So,
well, that's creepy.
yeah. Police had a theory that Senior had used the keys to let himself inside of the trunk, a trunk of the car, with the intent of ambushing his ex-girlfriend Kim at some point, letting himself out with a working emergency latch. But when heat exhaustion set in, it was possible that he had panicked and forgotten to use it, remaining in the trunk to die. After completing their investigation into his death, detectives told the media that he had been considered a person of interest in Jamie Farley's disappearance, which remained an open case at that time. Members of both the Fraley and Simmons families believed that Senior had taken useful information about what happened to Jamie Farley to his grave. Her mother, Kim, who had supplemented the official investigation with efforts of her own, recalled crying when she learned of his death, because Senior, she claimed, was hiding something, and that Farley's family could never get out that info out of him. And apparently Senior, by then, Junior was released out of prison by then, as his girlfriend was missing. Now Jamie Farley's, fiancé, Junior, was out of prison, and he also believed that Senior had something to do with it.
I mean, I think everyone thinks it's Senior.
It has to be Senior at this point, right? There was another guy in 2015 named Jerry Case who apparently made a confession that he had killed and kidnapped Jamie Farley, but he was in prison at the time. So he was immediately disregarded as a person of interest. So just another nut
who is
job.
this guy? I know.
Jerry Case, another nut job from prison who tried to claim responsibility, but it was proven that he was not involved. I couldn't even find. I was trying to even find like a image of this guy or anything. I couldn't find anything about this Jerry Case.
I don't understand. Is he trying to be relevant or something?
Yeah, it's just
in a bad way.
Just a nut job in prison. That's bizarre. So what do you think about the whole situation right now? I assume you're probably leaning towards Senior as being the most likely culprit in this case.
Yeah, definitely, because who else?
Right?
I'm assuming that maybe Jamie was actually waiting for someone to pick her up in the middle of the night, and then Senior knocked on her door, and that's when she dropped the call because it was unexpected. Like dropped the call from her with her friend. He's here.
Oh, that could be the case, yeah.
He's here, and she panicked. She maybe ran, opened the door.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a sense that maybe Senior dragged her out.
But Senior could also have been the person that she was waiting for originally also.
That's true, because he's
Who else is gonna get up on a Tuesday 1:30 a.m. to drive you to the
girlfriend.
hospital?
Senior's girlfriend.
Senior's girl. But she said that he's here. So basically on the phone, Jamie said he's here.
Oh, yeah.
She indicated that it was a male, so it wasn't Kim.
Yeah, that's true.
So it only makes sense that it's Senior. And she didn't call anyone. So it was
It would
someone
be
from
someone
the.
from the apartment.
It's either senior or another.
Someone else.
Or someone else. We do not know who else was living in that apartment complex.
Yeah, there's a possibility. You're right. Maybe there was just.
It's just that senior is like fits the picture the most. I mean, this guy is crazy.
Yeah, but then again, he was supposedly the potential father-in-law of Jamie.
Who was obsessed with Jamie and had already strangled an ex-girlfriend and was about to potentially murder the most former ex-girlfriend. And he passed away in the trunk. And he was also a drug addict, apparently.
Whew.
So it's kind of hard to look somewhere else, because it looks like we have the guy right here, right? There's some more interesting things I want to kind of tell you about that I found on some other sources. So I want to talk a little bit about Jamie's sickness and shoelaces.
Okay, well that's random.
Yeah.
Shoelaces.
Yeah, so basically Jamie's mother and aunt and the cousin, they arrived at the apartment on day one of her disappearance. And they noticed that her stuff were still in the apartment. And they said that there was vomit all over the apartment, apparently, or several that Jamie had vomited all throughout the apartment. So the sickness was really heavy.
Oh yeah, it seems really severe.
It's real severe to the point where we don't even know what kind of a mental state Jamie was in at that point. She was, at the very least, very vulnerable, in my
I'm
opinion.
assuming she was already very weak.
Yeah.
With all those hospital trips and the vomits all over the place.
So the biggest bizarre detail here is that the shoelaces to her favorite shoes that she wore all the time were missing. And she would not wear any other shoes. So she must have left with flip-flops. Shoelaces. And
I don't know. Honestly,
some people think that maybe shoelaces were used to bind her limbs when they were removing the body, potentially from the scene.
that's crazy.
And they couldn't find the rope. So they grabbed the only shoe in the apartment, which was the shoelaces. It was the pair of shoes that she always wore.
2, not just 1 shoe.
I think so.
I mean, I don't think so. Because how long? Okay, taking a shoelace off a shoe will take forever.
Yeah.
It's not like a one pull, you already have a rope.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go crisscross. Do the crisscross thingy to get rid of the shoe.
Yeah, basically.
Is there a possibility that she...
So you don't think it was used? You don't think the shoelace plays any role in this disappearance? And Jamie just casually removed the shoelaces from her shoes?
Maybe she wanted to wash it?
But where's the shoelaces? Because they were never recovered.
Immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was Senior. The obsession.
Senior was so obsessed with Jamie that he collected the shoelaces as a innuendo or like a, not innuendo, but like a what is that thing called? Like when you personal effects from the crime scene. So he's taking shoelaces.
I have no idea.
No, I don't think so. I think shoelaces were most likely, in my opinion, used to bound Jamie Fraley, because it doesn't make any other sense. This just doesn't happen. Shoelaces are missing and the girl is missing. I mean, 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah, but then again, she was a petite lady.
Yeah.
So immediately, she's weaker than most men.
And she was also sick badly.
Exactly. So she was petite and she was very vulnerable at that time. It's gonna be easier for a man to just abduct her without the use of shoelaces.
No, but maybe what if she's already dead? Then it's easier to transport a body with the limbs being tied together than the limbs being, flapping around.
I did not think of this one.
I think to me it's just kind of obvious that, for me personally, The shoelaces were probably used to kind of, at the very least, restrain somehow Jamie Farley. Now I want to also talk about. Basically they found after they left the house a little bit. They started calling Jamie's phone, and a man picked up eventually.
What time was this?
This was right after they found out that she's missing. So this was the cable company guy who found the phone in the intersection.
Okay.
So he apparently was searching around that intersection for a while because he kept hearing a phone ringing, but he couldn't quite locate it. And he eventually found that phone. And then he answered the number. And that's how they pinpointed that this was Jamie's phone. So I presume this cable company guy is innocent.
Yeah, definitely.
Gastonia County Police launched an investigation, devoted 3 investigators, and it became a big-time case. However, no one really saw her ever again.
This is honestly really sad because she seemed like a very nice girl.
Yeah. I also want to bring up some more information about Senior and Junior, actually. So Junior had a criminal record and a history of drug abuse. He served 15 months in prison for larceny between January 4th in 2007 and April 29th of 2008. So right around that kind of range when Jamie went missing. He had also been arrested previously for drug possession and car theft. Jamie supposedly was quite defensive about Junior's behavior, so she was trying to protect her fiancé, and her family grew concerned with all of Junior's legal troubles. But she did stick with Junior, and she started writing him letters every day as she awaited his release from prison. In the meantime, she continued working towards her GED. She spent time with friends and family and even managed a personal MySpace page dedicated to missing persons. How insane. She was managing a MySpace page about missing people. And she became a missing person herself.
I did not view it this way. I view it more of like she was a very nice
individual. She was good. She was a very nice person. The nicest person of all time.
Pure. An angel.
But I do think that since Junior was kind of like a petty criminal, there is a chance that Jamie was somehow in danger. Like maybe she was somehow connected to Junior's associates. Like she must have been around like criminals.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this area has a lot of drug activities.
At least in this area.
Yeah, Senior, Junior.
Yeah, so 2 doors down from Jamie's apartment lived Senior and his then girlfriend Kim. We already talked a little bit about them, so you know what I'm talking about. Like his son, Senior had a criminal record, and both him and Kim were addicts. So Kim was apparently an addict.
Wait, what?
Allegedly. Well, I mean, the area did seem like it had a lot of drug activity, as you said. In '86, he was arrested on a first-degree murder charge for strangling his girlfriend Donna Miller. After his arrest, he was admitted to the mental hospital for threatening suicide and was ultimately sentenced on a manslaughter charge to 20 years, but he was released 6 years later on parole for good behavior, though he continued to have run-ins with the law, engaging in petty theft, larceny, and drug use. So basically, Senior had not been in jail for 16 years at this point, as I understand. So did he just became extra violent recently, leading up to the disappearance of Jamie and his own crazy death?
As far as we know, we don't know for sure.
Senior was a maintenance worker in the apartment complex, and he had developed a friendship with Jamie. She would often hang out at his apartment, and she came to rely on him to help run errands, which makes me believe that, yeah, he was definitely the guy who was gonna take her at 1:30 a.m. Reportedly, Jamie was aware of Senior's past, but was reluctant to estrange him and may have been in denial or even willing to accept it. it is accepted that Senior was flirtatious with Jamie, who did not reciprocate his advances. Because, yeah, I'm like fiancé with your son. That's strange, right?
Senior seemed to be a creep.
Definitely. On Jamie's second trip to the hospital, she first asked Senior for a ride, and he dropped her off at the hospital and she walked in alone. However, they could not get her admitted for at least 3 hours, and she did not want to stick around in the hospital, so she called Senior back to bring her back to the apartment because she was thinking, okay, I'm gonna go back in later. But Senior didn't pick up the phone, so she actually called someone else to bring her home. So right after dropping off Jamie, Senior immediately kind of was doing something else, wasn't even picking up the phone. And several witnesses saw her enter her apartment at around this time, and this was the last time she was seen alive. Now, we have some additional information about a very strange detail, and this is like, I don't know, this one I'm gonna ask you to kind of try to understand with me. So I found this one little detail and I was trying to understand what's happening here. Okay, so at some point, and now I'm going to be talking about the location where the phone was found, right? Like a mile away from the apartment complex. You know what I'm talking about, the phone that was found by the cable company guy, like the next day. So at some point later, police had received a call about a trash bag left on the side of a road that the police had been searching 2.5 miles from Jamie's complex. So someone calls police about a strange trash bag left in the same location where police were looking for Jamie. And apparently this was not a very populated area and not a lot of people frequented this road. So it's like a very kind of rural road, as I understand, where not a lot of cars go. And now police spent some time searching that road because they had some additional information in order to find Jamie. Now later on, someone called police. You remember that road that you have been looking for Jamie for? Well, now there's a weird trash bag in the road, and everyone was like, what does that mean? So somehow police immediately connected that trash bag to Senior, and they interviewed him, and he happily admitted that he put the trash bag in that road. And according to him, he had been driving in that area, he had gotten a flat tire, and he had tossed the bag out the way to reach a spare tire and just forgot to put the trash bag back into his car after he changed his tire. And the location of the bag, the cell phone, and Jamie's apartment complex triangulate almost perfectly, whatever that means. So this is a strange detail, but kinda definitely once more incriminates Senior.
Everything incriminates that guy.
Basically at this point, right? So Jamie's family had a hard time accepting that Senior could have been involved because allegedly he was concerned for Jamie in a phone call with Jamie's mother, Kim Farley. He also stated that he believed that she had been abducted and that whoever had taken her, well, they weren't ready to give her back just yet. No, but what kind of a comment is that? Why would you ever say that to a mother? To a mother of missing child, you're gonna tell them, well, I think she's abducted and I don't think they're ready to give her back just yet.
Well, that's insensitive.
And what kind of a comment is that?
Someone who did not think.
Yeah, so basically, law enforcement later on, they obtained a warrant to track Senior for obvious reasons because they were hoping that he will lead to maybe some more clues about Jamie's whereabouts, right? But what they found was very disturbing because he wasn't going out where potentially Jamie's remains could be at, but he was actively stalking his ex-girlfriend Kim Springer, the same Kim from the apartment complex that he lived at. And so police contacted Kim to warn about Senior's behavior, like, this guy is stalking you. and Kim then got a restraining order. And apparently then on June 7th, Kim found Senior dead in the trunk. No comments here?
I don't know. I think we already established the fact that Senior was a crazy guy.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of driving this home.
Cements everything.
Yeah, I think I'm just driving this home. Okay, so we have 3 theories here, okay? So theory number 1, and this is the most widely considered theory and most popular, obvious, that Senior was most likely agitated for some reason, maybe on drugs. His relationship with Kim had just failed recently, and he was also obsessed with Jamie, and Jamie was sick, so he basically took the opportunity at the middle of the night and he abducted and killed her, then most likely discarded of her remains. His violent past and proximity to Jamie certainly point in this direction and this line of thinking. Jamie's family and law enforcement also believe that, Senior is most likely the culprit here. Another theory is that Jamie may have had some sort of bipolar episode because she was suffering from that, and that she walked out and wandered, and she may have ended up dying due to exposure or something of that nature, somehow along the way tossing her phone, which is what some people also think.
I know we're supposed to be open-minded here, but
you just think it's Senior, right?
I just don't think that she would actually do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of angry that this theory even exists.
This theory, yeah.
Yeah, it might be her mental condition. She probably just walked off when clearly there was a creepy dude obsessed with her 2 doors down with extreme criminal records.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we kind of went over. I had some additional kind of questions here, but I realized that we already talked about everything. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking that, in my opinion, when I think about it, I do think it's Senior.
Yeah,
I think
same.
it's Senior. I think it's Senior because this guy was definitely crazy. He was literally about to potentially kill Kim. I mean, what kind of mental state are you in to
and
hide in a
he
trunk?
already did it the first time.
Yeah.
To Donna Miller.
Yep. So you think it's Senior?
Definitely. I just don't know how he managed to do it, and where's Jamie?
Yeah, where's Jamie? You know what I mean?
Where are her remains? What happened there?
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate, but it's so obvious.
Yeah, because
that
she
it's
seems
Senior.
like such a nice person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so unfortunate that she was literally living in the neighborhood with a psychopath.
Definitely. I think Senior just saw that
An
she
opportunity.
that she was vulnerable and took that opportunity.
Yeah. Or, there could have been a scenario where a fight between them happened because she was vomiting. Maybe she vomited in his car and he was high on drugs.
Oh, yeah, potentially. Something a crazy person
He
would
was
do.
unstable. He killed her. He ran back to the apartment, locked it up because he was scared. Didn't talk to law enforcement, refused to do a polygraph test because he was high on drugs.
I really don't think that he locked up the apartment, though. I think it could be the case that Jamie was dragged out because all of her belongings were there.
Mm-hmm.
She was holding her phone because of that call with a friend, and that's the only thing that was found outside of the apartment. I definitely think it was not her intention to leave that apartment.
Yeah,
at
but
that moment.
someone did lock the apartment though.
Yeah.
So it must have been Senior. So what do you think? It was Senior who locked the door?
Yeah, or they could have that kind of door that just locks when you close them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that Senior probably locked the door. That's how I'm thinking. But okay, so this is Jamie Fraley's disappearance case. It's really unfortunate, and I'm definitely leaning towards the scene where I think most of us, that Senior is the culprit here.